Good afternoon, everybody. Let's dive into the topic directly. So we will basically talk about the floating offshore wind, which is the new exciting topic of this, or basically the energy industry nowadays. So what we're going to look at is the challenges of the offshore wind and floating offshore wind, and how we can utilize the technical due diligence process to mitigate the risks and make floating offshore wind possible. That's what we are going to look at today. But before that, I would like to give a little bit of information about the company that I'm working for, which is ABL Group. ABL Group is an international marine and engineering consulting firm, which is composed of 4 main companies. The main idea behind this framework is to create the environment to provide the support to the projects from the beginning until the end throughout the entire life cycle. And we are actually operating in more than 70 offices worldwide, which is spread over 40 countries, and we do employ around 2,000 team members. On the left-hand side, you can see all the disciplines. Basically, we do have the disciplines to make the project successful and possible in-house. We are operating in maritime, offshore renewables, onshore renewables, carbon capture, oil and gas, obviously, basically in the traditional and new emerging and innovative markets. So, after all this blah blah, let's dive into the topic. So first, we need to ask the question to ourselves is, what is technical due diligence? Imagine right now there are 3 engineers working on a project. One is not seeing anything deeper than the surface. The other one is not hearing anything what the others are saying, is not hearing what the market is talking about. The other one is not writing anything in the report that they prepare as findings. Would that be a technical due diligence in that case? Well, obviously not. This is exactly opposite of what I just said, but we need a description here. So I asked ChatGPT. And ChatGPT says, imagine a team of Sherlock Holmes with calculators and hard hats, there you go, who are conducting an objective evaluation to uncover risks, assess feasibility, and verify performance of a project. Okay, but why do we need technical due diligence? Imagine a scenario. You've been dreaming of a blue car since ages, okay? You cannot afford the brand new one. You need the second-hand one. You're saving and saving and saving. Your hard-earned money is in your pocket. You go to a dealership. You just basically see your brand new, nice, beautiful blue car there. What do? Your hard-earned money in your pocket, you put it on the table, and then you say, shut up and take my money and give my car. No, we don't do that. We actually do something opposite. We just ask them to have a look at the car or take the car to a service center to ensure that the car is working properly, and then the car is going to be actually providing me the service that I paid for the next 10 to 15 years, right? So in a project environment, it's the exact same story. If I have some funds available, what I would then do, I'm looking for a project to invest my money in. Obviously, I want this project to return some investment, to return on my investment, right? And projects are complex. To be exact, on a floating offshore wind technical due diligence, there are in total 12 different disciplines that we employ. So basically, we cannot know everything about all these disciplines. That's why we go to an independent company and ask them to carry out a technical due diligence study for us. Then we identify some risks, we try to mitigate them, and the best thing of all is we renegotiate the terms and conditions and reduce the prices, okay? So now, after knowing what technical due diligence is, let's dive into the topic a little bit again. What is floating offshore wind and why it is floating? When you look at this picture, it's very simple. Fixed offshore wind is obviously fixed to the bottom directly with the foundation. Floating offshore wind is simply floating, all right? But why is it floating? The answer is clear. Fixed bottom is in shallow waters, limited wind, which means limited energy. But we want more energy. That means we can go with floating offshore wind to deeper waters where there is constant and strong winds, which means we can get more energy out of it. Okay, that's the story. Let's look at the timeline of offshore wind. The story started in early 2000s. And we are right now in 2025. As you can see, there are some pilot projects and demonstrator projects, but we still don't see any commercial floating offshore wind farm in place. The reason for that is there are so many risks and uncertainties still, okay? But I want you to focus on this from 2025 until 2050. Whichever database you look at, you will see so many projects planned within this period. Nothing happened so far in the last 25 years, not so much happened, not nothing, does not mean that nothing will happen in the next 25 years, all right? But things will happen, but I want you to actually focus on this picture here. This is the Easter morning, 5th Avenue, New York City, and you can see so many carriages and horses. If I ask you to spot the automobile, which is very difficult, by the way, I tried my best, and I've done my homework, there it is. After only 13 years, okay, it's the exact same street, there are so many cars right now, and you don't see any horses anymore. So what I'm trying to say here is, change is gonna happen, okay? It will take time, it's gonna happen, it will happen. But, as the title suggests, transition can catch you out. What does that mean? It is going to be a bumpy road, okay? It's not going to be easy. So things will go wrong, all right? And things went wrong in floating offshore wind. One example here, you see the Goto floating offshore wind farm. They have designed the floaters wrongly because they did not consider the fatigue. And after installation, they had to decommission 2 of these floaters that they installed. Another one, Fukushima, basically, as you can see, during the installation, they couldn't ballast it properly. There was an issue, obviously. So you see that excessive list, even almost capsized. This is the one that I love, Hyven, Scotland, okay? After 7 years of service, the entire offshore wind farm, floating, needed to go through an operations and maintenance campaign, which means they had to tow this entire stuff to port, and they paid millions and millions and millions. Could I have saved this money? Absolutely, yes. Okay? So after all these, I would like to dive into the challenges. What are the challenges? The first one is CapEx, OpEx, and the decommissioning expenses. So look at this one. 2 exact same capacity offshore wind farms. The fixed cost, let's say $2.3 billion, and floating would cost $3.6 billion for a same capacity 450 megawatt offshore wind farm. The difference is $1.4 billion. For those who cannot imagine what this means, okay? 1 million seconds is 11.5 days. 1 billion seconds is 31.7 years. What I'm trying to say is the cost difference is enormous, all right, at the moment. So there are high investment costs, and due to the uncertainties and potential delays and supply chain disruptions, the cost even can go higher and higher. And OpEx, because of the tow to port, which I'm going to talk about it later on, tow to port story that we are discussing, the downtime of the turbine is crazy. So you're not just only paying for the operations and maintenance, at the same time you're losing money from the profitability that you would make. The last one is a very funny one. In the technical due diligence stories we do, the commissioning expenses, some of them not even considered. If you consider these are offshore wind farms which needs to be decommissioned at some point. There will be crazy amount of money that will be put in this. It will eat from the profitability that you calculate from day one, okay? This one, the next one is the floater size. We are working on projects from the clients. They request us to look at the 20 megawatt turbines, which is, by the way, available at the moment on a demonstrator scale. The floater which is needed for this turbine is this. Okay, this is Camp Nou Camp, the stadium of the Barcelona, and you see the floater in the stadium. The picture speaks for itself. These things are huge. Okay, so what does that mean? There's a fabrication problem. Are there suitable fabricators around which can actually fabricate these on a commercial scale? Number one. Interim transport. These things need to be transported, basically fabricated somewhere, and then transported to a port so that they can be taken to be installed. Tow-to-port approach. As we said, they will be towed to port to do the maintenance, and for that you need some dry docks like the ships. Are there any dry docks available? Next one is an interesting one. Most of you have seen most probably this Mingyang, the 20 megawatt turbine, which is right now tested onshore. For you to be able to imagine what this size is all about, there's a comparison picture which I found. It is comparing it to Eiffel Tower, okay? Eiffel Tower is 330 meters. This thing is 290 meters tall. The interesting thing is, look at this blade, okay? 290 meters, which we are talking about, one blade size of around 150 meters, all right? Imagine right now all the ships available in the entire world and how many of them can transport this. Just imagine, all right? So increasing sizes, obviously creating logistics and transportation and installation problems. Reliability is another thing which is a problem at the moment. We said Mingyang, no offense here, but when we say Chinese, then obviously the industry is stopping and thinking 5 times, as we all know, is these things are reliable. Even if the wind turbines, which are already used at the moment, when we are doing the technical due diligence, we would look at the failure history. What is the downtime? How many times there was a component exchange needed on these? What was the downtime of that? Which means how much money I lost. The next one is again delivery. If they're gonna basically be delivered as promised. But the last point is a very interesting one. We all talk about these problems politically. Today we talked about US and all this stuff, right? We all know what is there politically. The question that we all ask, one day, all right, like it happened with the solar panels, China will supply so many turbines to Europe or to the entire world. It will happen, okay? It is unavoidable. It will happen. So the question is, after 25 years from now on, due to some political issues, will there be any sanctions? Will my turbines be actually utilized or using all these spares which are required? They will be provided or not? All these questions are still remaining, all right? The site assessment. In a project when you start, obviously the idea of this site assessment, we also call it wind and site. The idea of the turbines is to harvest the wind to create electricity, right? So we would look at it. If you do not calculate the energy source, which means the wind in that site, your entire profitability analysis, calculations, and your return that you expect from this project can go to rubbish bin. So simple. And especially for the floating ones, geotechnical and geophysical data is also important, that we look at soil conditions, we look at the water depth and seabed if they are suitably okay for the floater that I have. Next one is my lovely topic. I'm a T&I guy, okay? The transportation installation is a complex topic, and floating offshore wind, for floating offshore wind, it's even more complex. As we said, these floaters are constructed or fabricated somewhere, and they need to be transported by HTVs, heavy transport vessels, from the fabrication yard to the yard that they're going to be afterwards taken, the port basically, marshalling port we call it. And afterwards, at that port, they would be integrated by the turbines. What does that mean? That means assembling the turbine sections on top of the floater. And then the port, obviously, as you can see, all these turbines, after they're integrated, they would wait for their queue, they would wait in line for their turn to come to be taken offshore to be installed. While all these things are happening, at the same time, we would install the anchors and chains at the same time, simultaneously, okay? And the dynamic cables, the cables are going to transmit the electricity between the turbines, and they're also transmit the electricity to the shore. The anchors and chains are there to hold the station of the floater, all right? Then comes, obviously, floater is towed to the site. And then we do the mooring hookup, which means connect the floater to the mooring lines that we already pre-installed, and then connect the cables to the floater. We call it cable hookup. Then the hookup is complete, and you have a beautiful floating offshore wind farm. It's very easy to explain, isn't it? In reality, so many things can go wrong in this entire story that I just explained. Okay? But obviously, I cannot talk about all these risks involved today, but I just have some of them here. The first is suitability of the port. Is the port big enough to do the assembly and the temporary storage of the floaters? Let me tell you something very interesting. In Europe, we are working on maybe 5, 6 projects simultaneously, and all of them want to use the same port. Which one? Which project is going to use this port? This port is available, everybody says, I'm going to use that port. In reality, maybe this port is not even going to be available. Availability of vessels and cranes. Again, we are talking about AHTS basically with crazy bollard pull requirements. We are talking about literally bollard pull requirement to pull these things, tow these things around, let's say, 200 tons. If you use one single vessel, it's not even possible. How many of them are available? So you need to think about this and plan it accordingly. Ring cranes. You have seen these crazy height around 300 meters of the turbine. These things are huge. We need some large ring cranes or even jack-up vessels, okay, to integrate these onto the floater. Experience of the EPCI contractor is interesting. It's a new technology. It's not that everybody is experienced how to install it like in oil and gas. So there will be some problems. In the contracts that you sign, there will be so many gaps, okay? There are gaps. We do these technical due diligence studies. We see these at the moment. An simplistic construction schedule. Everybody says, I'm going to install, I don't know, 1 turbine in every week. Yeah, good luck with that. It's not going to happen. I can tell you that. And the project shows that on paper at the moment. And the money is spent based on these projects, based on these assumptions. Adverse weather. Everything is floating. What does that mean? That means I am bound to the weather. If the weather doesn't allow, I cannot do anything. And there will be problems if it is not planned properly. All of this vessel spread that we need will be waiting on standby. Who is paying for that? The next one is operations and maintenance. We talked about tow-to-port approach, remember. What is that actually? All this T&I stuff I explained, it sounds like a joke, but it's reality. For the tow-to-port approach for operations and maintenance, it has to be done in reverse. That means for each turbine, whenever we need to change a blade, at the moment, it's happening like this, you have to disconnect all the mooring lines, all the cables, tow this entire thing to the site, put it into dry dock, fix it, and then tow it back and reconnect. What does that mean? My turbine is not generating electricity during this entire time. Okay? Did we consider this in our profitability analysis in the very beginning? If you didn't, you will have a problem. And availability, as we said, of the dry docks in close proximity is an issue. The sizes that I just showed, right? I'm talking about 90 to 100 meters. What dry dock is there right now which can accept it? It's very difficult to plan these things. And suitable vessels and cranes, again, on spot market, okay? You need to change a turbine, a blade, let's say. You go to the market and say, I need a 200-ton bollard pull AHTS. Good luck with that. It will be very difficult for you to find it. Even if there is one, it is most probably used in another project. So, all these risks, the question is it possible to de-risk? Well, the answer is yes. If you engage a partner which has the global experience with the local expertise, they can be involved as doing the TDD and LTA, we call it, to de-risk the project. But this company, I'm not, by the way, talking about you have to hire ABL group, okay? Like, put this aside. But this company makes sure that they have the theoretical experience, knowledge, and the practical experience. That is a must to be able to identify the risks. So basically, I'm saying a project company involved in projects during the planning and execution stage on more than 1,000 projects, let's say. And a company provided TDD and LTA support to hundreds of projects and hundreds of vessel acquisitions. Well, obviously, I'm talking about the experience of ABL Group here. That's a different story, right? The conclusion. floating offshore wind can actually float. That we can clearly say. But in order to make it float, the funds need to be available. The funds are available, but we need to make sure that there are more demonstrator projects so that we can actually learn from them, okay? And we need to involve more advisors and experts with robust experience to support us to identify the projects and identify the risks and then mitigate them. The last one is very important, also relevant to today, obviously. Special focus is absolutely needed on supply chain. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.